Okay, today we're working on long division with a one-digit divisor. That's found on page 7 of your textbook. Okay, the first thing that I want to talk to you about when we're talking about long division is we're going to use a kind of a formula. I refer to it as the DMSB loop. And the reason I call it a loop is because we continue to use this formula until we complete the problem. Okay? So when we do each division problem, we're going to divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down our next digit. Okay? A way that you can remember the DMSB loop, possibly it might help you to remember dad, mom, sister, brother. Okay? But I will constantly refer to our DMSB loop. All right? Okay, I will put this at the top of the page while we're working. Maybe that would help. Okay. So, I know in working with addition and subtraction and multiplication, I told you that I really think that place value is very important. And when we're doing addition and subtraction and multiplication with multi-digit problems, we always work from the right to the left. Okay, so the opposite of reading. Division, however, we do just the opposite. We work from the left to the right. Okay, so in this case, your place value is not going to be as important, but the positioning of your answer will be. Okay, so for instance, when I look at this first problem, which is 956 divided by 4, I am going to ask myself how many times 4 can go into the first number right here. Okay, in this case, 4 does go into 9. How many times does 4 go into 9? 4 goes into 9 2 times, right? Because 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, so that's the first step. We just did our divide step. All right, so 4 goes into 9 2 times. So now our next step, according to our DMSB loop, is multiply, right? So now we are going to multiply the answer that we just got by our divisor, okay? In division, our number on the outside of our division symbol is the divisor, and the number underneath our division symbol is our dividend, okay? And our answer is called our quotient. Okay, so as I said, we divided the 4 into the 9, or 9 divided by 4 is 2. Now we're going to multiply 2, and if you want, you can put a little times symbol up here. It might help you to remember. 2 times 4 is 8. We're going to put that answer down here. Okay? Now we look back up at our DMSB loop, and our next step is to subtract. Okay? So we are going to subtract the 8 from the 9. Okay? So 9 minus 8 is 1. Okay? And then our next step in our loop is to bring down. Okay? So we're going to bring down the next digit in our dividend, okay, which is a 5. All right, now we're going to ask how many times 4 goes into 15. We're dividing again. We started our loop over, right? Okay, so 4 goes into 15 how many times? It goes in 3 times. So we're going to put our 3 up here. Okay. Oh, and it's important to note, when we did our first number up here, when we put our 2 up here, it was because we were dividing 4 into 9, and we put our answer above the number that we were dividing into, okay? We always want to look to the last number to the right that we're dividing into, okay? So in this case, it's the 5, okay? So we're putting our next number up here. We always move to the right in a division problem, okay? Now we're going to multiply our 3 as our steps go to multiply. We're going to multiply our 3 times 4, and we're going to get 12. We'll put it below the 15. And now again, our loop is telling us that it's time to subtract. So we're going to subtract 12 from 15. 5 minus 2 is 3. Okay? Then if we look back up at our loop again, we're at the bring down phase. So we are going to bring down our next digit, which is a 6. Okay? Now we're asking how many times 4 goes into 36. Okay? And 4 goes into 36 9 times. So we're going to put our answer up here. And then we're going to multiply. 9 times 4 is 36. Now we look back at our loop and we see we subtract. Subtract and we get 0. There's nothing left to bring down. And we have nothing left over. So our answer is 239. Looking at our next problem, again, if I ask the division question, how many times does 4 go into 5? Well, 4 goes into 5 one time, so I'm going to put that number up here because the 4 is going into the 5, okay? Now, if I look at my loop, my next step is to multiply. I'm going to multiply my 1 times 4, and I will get 4. Looking at my loop, now I subtract. 5 minus 4 is 1. Look back up at my loop, and it's time to bring down. So I want to bring down my next number, which is an 8. All right. 4 goes into 18 how many times? 4 times. So we're going to put that up there, up above the 8. 4, oh, we're at multiply. 4 times 4 is 16. Then we're going to subtract. 18 minus 16 is 2. Then our next step is what? Bring down. We're going to bring down the 4. Then we're going to start over again. Divide. 4 goes into 24 how many times? 6. Put our number above the 4. 6 times 4 is 24. Oops, that was it. Multiply. So we put the 24 here. Now we do what? Subtract. Okay. And then our last step is to bring down, and there's nothing to bring down. And oops, when we subtracted, we got 0. So we have no remainder. Our answer is 146. Let's try the problem. Let's try this next problem down here. Whoops, this is going to be kind of difficult, huh? Well, let's just go on to this problem down here, and hopefully you'll remember our DMSB loop. Okay, so we are looking at 672 divided by 8. Actually, let's do this. Let us fold this paper down, and all will be good. Right? Right. Okay. All right. Yay! All right. So the first thing that we're going to do is divide. We're going to ask ourselves, how many times does 8 go into 6? Well, 8 can't go into 6, right? So in that case, we have to look at the next number, okay? We have to look at the number to the left and put these two digits together, okay? So now we've brought these two digits together and we're asking, how many times does 8 go into 67, okay? Because 8 did not go into 6, but 8 can go into 67, okay? Now, 8 goes into 67 8 times, because 8 times 8 is 64, all right? But when we put our answer up here, up above, when we put our quotient up here, we are not going to start our answer here over the 6 because we didn't go into 6, okay? Technically, 8 goes into 6 0 times, okay? So we're just going to put a little tiny 0 up there, okay, so that we know that 8 goes into 6 0 times, okay? So now we know that when we're looking at 67, we have to put our answer above the 7, okay? So 8 goes into 67 how many times? Okay? Now, if that makes you uncomfortable, 0 times 8 is 0. If you had put a 0 in this spot and did our subtraction step, we would have got a 6, then we would have brought down our 7. So you would have had a 0 in this place, and then you would have had 67 down here, if that makes more sense to you, okay? So either way, you're going 8 into 67, and you started with nothing here, okay? So a 0 in that spot or nothing in that spot is the same thing, all right? Anyway, 8 goes into 67 8 times, so we're going to put our answer above the 7. So we're putting our 8 up above the 7, all right? Then our next step is to multiply. So we're going to multiply 8 times 8, and we're going to get 64. According to our DMSB loop, our next step is to subtract. So we are going to subtract 64 from 67. 7 minus 4 is 3. Okay? Our next step is to bring down. So we're going to bring down our 2. Now we're asking, how many times does 8 go into 32? 8 goes into 32 4 times. Oops, we're dividing again, right? We started over. And we're putting our answer over our 2. 4 times, multiply, right? 4 times 8 is 32. Then our next step is to subtract. When we subtract, we get 0. We have nothing left to bring down. So our answer is 84. Okay, nope, there aren't any more that are big like that. Okay. So, the other thing that you have to know about dividing one-digit divisors is if there is something left over when you're done. In the case of the problems that we just did, we had nothing left. Every time we divided, these whole numbers divided evenly, okay? So 4 divided evenly into 956. 4 divided evenly into 584. And 8 divided evenly into 672, okay? But sometimes our numbers did not divide evenly, okay? And we're going to show you what you do if the numbers do not divide evenly. Okay, so in this case, we have 835 divided by 9, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to start by dividing. When we look at our DMS loop or SB loop, 9 goes into 8 how many times? 0, right? Again, there's nothing here. There's a 0, all right? So we're going to look at the next digit. So now we're looking at 83. 9 can go into 83 how many times? 9 times. Again, we have to put our answer over the 3 because the 3 is the farthest digit on the right in the number we're dividing into, okay? Now we multiply. 9 times 9 is 81, okay? The next step in our DMSB loop is to subtract. So we are going to subtract 81 from 83. 3 minus 1 is 2. Obviously, 8 minus 8 is 0, so there's nothing there. The next step is to bring down. We're going to bring down our 5, and then we're going to start over again. Divide. 9 goes into 25 how many times? Well, it goes in twice. Remember, we're putting it over our 5. Our 2 goes over our 5. 2, multiplying. 2 times 9 is 18. Next step is subtract. 15, we're going to have to borrow here. So we're going to borrow a 10 from this, add it to our 5. So we have 15 minus 8 is 7. 1 minus 1 is 0. We would bring down if we had another number, right? But we don't have another number. So what do we do with this leftover 7? Well, it's a remainder. It's a remaining amount. So in our answer, we're going to put a little r. That stands for remainder and a period. Okay. And we have a remainder, we have a remainder of 7. Okay. So that's what happens with this leftover. We have part of a number. That's what it is. We have a remainder of 7. Okay. Looking at our next problem, if we start our DMSB loop, we ask how many times does 8 go into 4? Well, 8 doesn't go into a 4, right? Okay, 0 times, right? Okay, so we have to look at the next number. So now we're looking at 8 goes into 45. All right, 8 goes into 45 how many times? 8 goes into 45 5 times, right? So what's our next step? Multiply. We're going to multiply 5 times 8, and we're going to get 40. Looking at our loop, our next step is subtract. 5 minus 5 is 0. 5 minus 0 is 5. 4 minus 4 is 0. Okay, next step, bring down. We're going to bring down our 1. Okay, 8 goes into 51. We're starting our loop over, dividing. 8 goes into 51 how many times? 8 goes into 51 6 times. Okay, next step, multiply. 6 times 8 is 48. Look at our steps. Next step is subtract. Okay, we're going to have to borrow from the 5. We'll get 4. We'll add our 10 to our 11, or to our 1 and get 11. 11 minus 8 is 3. 4 minus 4 is 0. We have nothing left to bring down. Again, we have a remaining amount. Okay, so we have a remainder of 3. Okay, let's try one more. 6, We're dividing, multiplying, subtracting, bringing down. 6 goes into 3 0 times, right? So we have to look at the two numbers together. 6 goes into 30 how many times? 5. Look at our loop. We're multiplying. 5 times 6 is 30. Now we subtract. 30 minus 30 is 0. But we have to bring down our next number, right? Bring down our 9. Now we ask, dividing again. 6 goes into 9 how many times? Once. Now we multiply. 1 times 6 is 6. Now we subtract. 9 minus 6 is 3. Again, we have a remainder. We have a remaining amount. And so our answer is 51 with a remainder of 3.